me through, what are your biggest hopes for the upcoming legislative session?
Man, I hope that our schools are taken care of. I think that was part of my campaign quite a bit, and I really hope this legislative session brings more money to those public schools without putting public funds into private schools that don't need them.
Yeah, let's sort of go into school choice a bit more. That's
Yeah.
set to be a big topic.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about it a lot.
Yep.
Governor Abbott says he has the votes to pass it. Do you believe him?
I don't think so. No. Right now, we're working on a speaker race. They're working on a speaker race, and there's a lot of contested candidates in that speaker race. So that I think that's going to drive the conversation for any sort of legislative priorities that occur, because that speaker is going to set what those priorities are. I know school choice is going to be one of those big issues, but I don't think it's going to. I don't think it has the votes right now, but we'll see.
What are your hopes for the speaker race?
Oh man, I know that Cole Hefner, our neighbor to the north, he is supporting Dustin Burrows, and I know that our, elected or our current rep elect is he's pushing for David Cook. So I think there's a lot of the far conservative crowd that's pushing for David Cook, and I think the more moderate side's looking for Dustin Burrows. So we'll see how that works out.
And what's your take on, the more conservative versus the more moderate? Which one do you think has a bigger base of support?
That's a good question. It seems like a majority of the Republican caucus is going for that more right-leaning, extremist Republican side, but I don't think that represents a majority of Texas. I think most Texans just want to see, the cost of goods go down. They want to see good public schools. They want to not pay a ton for their housing. That's all the things that I ran on for sure, but I don't see that far-right Republican majority or the Republican caucus aiming for those things. I think they're going for these extremist measures that don't really help Texans.
Do you foresee, a lot of bipartisanship in the upcoming legislative session?
I don't know. I don't think the Republican caucus is agreeing with itself right now, so I don't know how they're going to agree with everybody else. So we'll see how that shakes out, I guess.
We've talked about school choice. What are some other hopes you have for the legislative session?
I know there's a big push, there was during the campaign season for work on immigration issues and fixing border issues, and there hasn't been a lot of narrative around that and how that's going to work. I would like to see some common sense reforms around immigration, whatever that looks like. I know the Trump administration last week on Meet the Press has talked about deportation efforts, but I don't know how that's going to work with just the DACA recipients and immigrants at large. We'll see how that shakes out, though.
Obviously, you're a small business owner.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to see done regarding small businesses?
Man, I would like to see the tariff situation. Donald Trump has pledged this tariff increase for Mexico and Canada. Small business owners like me are really going to suffer because of that. So it's going to be hard for me to source equipment, network equipment, technical equipment. It's going to raise the cost of that dramatically for my customers. So I'm hoping that that's a lot of just hot air that's blown that doesn't really come to fruition, but we'll see.
Is there something at the state level? Say those are implemented.
Yeah.
Is there something that can be done at the state level to sort of alleviate those concerns for you?
I mean, there'd have to be some sort of tax incentives for small business to prevent that tariff increase, the price increase from tariffs. But tariffs are a national issue. It's control at the border. So I don't see that being something that we can fix or rectify at the state level. I would like to see. Of course, Texas is a very pro-business state anyway. It's hard to get more pro-business in Texas, I guess, right now. Franchise taxes are not that high. State sales and use tax is not that high. I don't know. I don't think so. I think that there are some regulatory things that we could aim for. There could be more incentives to push small business into the government sector, give some more government contracts, that kind of thing. I think that'd be valuable. But that increases government growth as well. So that's something that nobody wants to do right now.
I remember speaking with Representative Cody Harris in Palestine. He mentions he wants to see property taxes put to zero. There are some other lawmakers who have talked about changing property taxes.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you think it should be a topic discussed?
There's a lot of campaign push around lowering property taxes, which they need to be lowered. But property taxes are how we fund a lot of the local services, like schools, like our hospital districts. So I don't think we should cut that funds from that. When you look at housing costs, a majority of it is going towards like insurance, housing insurance, property insurance, that kind of thing. So there needs to be some sort of like cap and regulation on insurance, homeowners insurance specifically, and because of all the storms that we've experienced over the last few years, it's just raised that cost of property insurance, and we have to do something about that.
You mentioned the storms that Texas has gone through.
Yep.
Of course, there's been some discussion about the power grid.
Yep.
Is there anything you'd like to see done regarding that?
I know we've added some dispatchable power through like battery packs and that kind of thing in the last session, or that was a big push last session. More of that, more alternative energy. I know in other states there's a big push towards small nuclear energy reactors, and it might be time to investigate things like that, you know. But things like Bitcoin, things like AI, they're producing way more technical debt, way more technical power requirements that we can't keep that held up with our power grid as is now. So we need to start working towards alternative energy that can power those alternative technical things.
So if you had to
Yeah.
say your 3 biggest hopes for the next legislative session, what would they be?
3 biggest hopes are going to be hopefully not any new. Conservative priorities are always kind of hit or miss. They seem to be focused on culture war issues that don't serve anybody in Texas. So let's don't focus on culture war issues. Let's focus on how do we lower the cost of goods and services and housing? How do we make our schools better and more effective? And how do we just create more common sense social things? You know, how do we make a society that is more impactful to everybody around? And I think aiming for culture issues is not that. So we need to serve the Texans that we have. We need to bring new Texans in. We need to build business, and we need to build education.
Is there anything I didn't ask you you'd like our audience to know about the legislative session?
It's going to be a roller coaster ride. The legislative sessions are always a roller coaster ride until those last few weeks. It lasts for 140 days traditionally. The first few weeks are going to be about the speaker race. There's going to be a lot of stories that come out that probably will never impact anybody. It's going to be a lot of hot air, a lot of smoke, but there will be some real important priorities that come through, and it's good to pay attention to the right things and ignore the other things.
Last thing, we may not be in the middle of a campaign right now,
Yeah.
but do you see yourself, advocating for any specific legislation or being in Austin in any capacity?
I'm going to advocate for anything that is impactful for Texans and impactful for East Texans specifically. I'm a public school person. I love public school. I think public school is what builds this nation. So anything around public education and public schooling, I'm going to be behind as much as I can. Additionally, I serve on the Technology Caucus for the Democratic Party. We have a meeting tonight. We're going to work on some technology issues, probably around AI and power and all that kind of thing. And small business. I focus on small business a lot. So any of those areas, I'm going to help out where I can.
Cody, we really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. I really appreciate you being here.